Assalamualaikum. Take 5 with Stallion. Luar biasa hebat. Today we're gonna discuss regarding on the topics of risk. So, what is risk? Hello, hi. Do you know what is risk?
Uncertainty cannot be predicted, can be anyway any place, which while driving. Risk during rainy days. Risk while at salon. Or even risk while playing badminton.
Risk can be classified into several distinct categories. The first one is pure risk. It refers to the possibilities that can result in only two outcomes, which is loss or no loss. The example of pure risk: fire, lightning, flood, premature death, accident, and etc. The second type of risk is speculative risk. It is a risk that can result in loss, no loss, or profit. In other words, it is a gain. It is uncertainty about an event that could produce either a profit, neutral, changes in value, or a loss in the risk. Generally, the speculative risk is a risk which cannot be covered by the insurance company or even by the takaful operators. The example can be given in speculative risk is market and foreign currencies, fluctuations, or venturing into a new business. The third category of risk is fundamental risk. A fundamental risk will affect the whole society or a large number of people within the economy. It is not within the control of an individual. The example can be given for fundamental risk is such flood, typhoon, or any heavy storm of losses. And the last category of risk is particular risk. A particular risk will affect only certain individual and not the entire community, and it is within the control of an individual. The example of particular risk is the damage to property for accident, theft, or any robbery, and etc. As a conclusion to our topic, risk is uncertain, which is it is an event of unfortunate losses. Risk cannot be predicted. If a risk can't be predicted, that means you are God. Now we move to another short topic that will be discussed by Tobat. What say you, Tobat? There are 5 types of risk management techniques. You want to know more? Check it out. Let's go.
These are the 5 risk management techniques.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Take 5 with Stallion Brothers. Luar biasa hebat. Now, I am Tobat, going to continue with chapter 2, risk management. Risk management is a systematic approach to identify, measure, evaluate, and controlling risk. It is the best way to manage your risk despite of the numerous numbers of risks with its unfortunate and uncertainties. In Islam, a risk has to be managed for better futures of the family during the bad times and death of the breadwinner. Many Muslims misunderstood the concept of faith. They believe that the future is in the hand of Allah. While it is true that Allah knows the future, believing that everybody's future is fated by Allah is incorrect. In fact, Muslims are asked to work hard in order to be able to change their conditions. This clearly mentioned in the Quran, "Verily, never will Allah change the condition of a people until they change themselves." Surah Al-Ra'd, ayat 11. In this verse, Muslims are told that Allah will never change the condition unless they themselves put an effort to change, meaning that a risk management must come into place in order to manage the uncertainties of events. Let us start with the 5 risk management techniques. The first one, risk avoidance. Risk avoidance is a risk control technique whereby a risk is proactively avoided or abandoned after rational consideration that a certain loss exposure is never acquired or an existing loss exposure is abandoned. If one is afraid of taking a risk, then the best way to deal with it is to avoid it completely. It reduces the possibility of loss to zero outcome of losses. The example can be given: if you are afraid from being caught in any accident, you should not drive a car or even ride a motorcycle. The second risk management technique, risk prevention or loss reduction. Loss control is designed to reduce both the frequency and the severity of losses by changing the characteristic of the exposure, so it is more acceptable to the firm, which it can be divided into 2, namely loss prevention and loss reduction. Loss prevention programs seek to reduce the number of losses, which is the frequency of losses. This method is selected when the benefit outweighs the cost involved. Remember, frequency is reducing the number of time towards the losses occurred.
This is a clearer definitions on severity and frequency.
Example of loss prevention method. A flood case can be prevented by creating a dam, water resources management. Second, smoking. You can prevent by having ban on smoking except in the restricted area. The third one, if you want to prevent a drunk driving, you should enforce or giving a prison sentence. The example of loss reduction by installing a water sprinkler systems, smoke detectors, fire extinguishing appliances towards the manufacturing process. Loss reduction. Loss reduction programs are designed to reduce or lower the severity of losses. It should occur since some risks are unavoidable. The other alternative is to reduce the impact of losses. Like I mentioned earlier, loss reduction is tackling the severity of losses. Example: a water sprinkler system is a classic example of reduction efforts because if fire is required to activate the sprinkler, ini panjang sangat lah. Stop. The third risk management techniques, risk retention. If the current level of risk is already at an acceptable level, the individual or organization may decide to retain the risk. It involves accepting the loss when it occurs. Risk retention is a viable strategy for small risks when the cost of insuring against the risk will be greater over time than the total losses sustained. Example of risk retention is when an organization set up a pool of funds to retain its loss exposure instead of transferring or sharing the risk to another party. In other words, risk retention is about absorbing the risk immediately. The fourth risk management technique, risk transfer. Insurance is a risk financing method of transferring the financial consequences of potential accidental losses from an insured firm or family to another party, which is called as the insurance company. This method is used when the organization feels that it is more economical and beneficial to transfer the risk to another party. Transferring the risk to another party involves a contractual agreement whereby the other party assumes the risk and liable for the loss in the event of loss, with a consideration of payment which is called as premium.
Risk transfer is about transferring a risk to the insurance company. It would be the most beneficial to the firm in order.
The last risk management techniques, risk sharing. Islam does not allow risk to be exchanged. The total transfer of financial consequence of losses arising from a risk. It is recognized as being fair to each party as it may lead to an ever burden of claim beyond the original intentions of the insurers. As an alternative to the individuals or organization, you can share the risk with the others who have similar nature of risk, and this practice will call as takaful, which is a mutual protection. A Sharia compliance are always the best. Takaful is based on the mutual protection concept. Instead of transferring the risk to another party, takaful promotes a sharing risk whereby the risk has been mutually shared between the participants in a takaful fund, which is called as a tabaruk fund. What is tabaruk fund? Shall see in another topic that will be discussed further in our next videos.
A Muslim must buy takaful, not insurance.
Thank you for watching Take 5 with Stallion Brothers. Mata gua dah buka bro, masa untuk tidur. Stay tuned for more videos in the future. Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
These boys up in my zone.